All right, so we got me and we got Jay over there, and then way over there, I can't stick my arm through. Bam. Oh, that was pretty weird.
Way over there.
That was pretty weird.
Pond.
Did you see that? I stuck my arm through it right when Heiny waved, and it looked like my arm went all the way over there. And then we got Heiny Rhymes.
Hi
there. Today we're going to talk about whatever we want. We're supposed to talk about video game addiction, but I'm sure we'll talk about whatever. Video game addiction. That's what we're talking about. Who's going to be the devil's advocate here?
Oh, I can be devil's advocate on anything.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to kick both sides. The people are saying there's game addiction, and the people are saying there's no game addiction. I will kick both sides.
Both sides? Okay.
I mean, there's definitely game addiction. I mean, it's a matter of what do they do to define it, and what are you going to do about it? Is it like a serious medical condition like they claimed it is? I'm not a doctor. I don't know that.
I can with the experience I have concerning things like addictions, and I did a lot of research when I found out that I got ADD. So there are a lot of things I found out, and it's more that there's a thing called game addiction, and that goes for almost anything that helps you get the dopamine flowing, like gambling or just having fun in whatever way, gaming, music, dancing, going to friends, whatever. Everything. There are many things that give you that dopamine shot, and it's mostly like pick your poison. So it's the more you are dependent on needing that dopamine shot to feel better, it can be anything. So gaming is just one of the ways that person has chosen to feel better.
But it's not like shooting heroin. I need to have my heroin to feel better and not get sick. But the thing that I find funny is it's like, well, you play video games for 4 hours a day and you're addicted. Okay, well, you watch TV for like 6.
Yes.
What's the difference? Well, that's gaming. It's for kids. Someone on Twitter just said that too. That video gaming. If you're with a mature man that plays video games, blah 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 blah, and I'm like, that is the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. Video gaming is pretty much like watching TV or watching a movie, except it's interactive. So instead of just sitting there like this, you are the one that is leading the story along. You are the one that directly impacts what happens. So it's actually better than TV.
But let me start for a moment from where I come from. So it was like around 8 years ago, there were some troubles I was having with having kids and suddenly being into the family life. And I felt as if a lot of my freedom was being cut away. And at that moment, I couldn't really handle it. And so I was looking for some help because I was almost running into the wall myself. And but long story short, I found out I got ADD. And for the people who don't know what ADHD is, it's mostly a disbalance in the dopamine levels in your blood. For most people, it's like having a little bit not enough in the morning and having too much in the evening. And dopamine kind of gives you a thicker skin, so you are less sensitive about the things in the world. So this has some positive sides to it and some negative sides. But when you're overstimulated, you're more easily triggered. So in the age of the caveman, and when you're walking around in the bushes, if you heard something, you're easily triggered in your fight or flight position. So it gave you a evolutionary advantage. But now in this time, there's so much around us, like TVs, telephones, traffic, advertisement. There's so much that keeps on triggering us, and we're surrounded by so many people. A lot of people have problems with handling all those signals coming in.
I'm smiling because that is exactly what happened to me, and it was So yeah, it was like 7 or 8 years ago. And when I went in and they did the test, and the doctors took a step back, and her eyes got about that big, and she goes, "Oh yeah, you have ADHD." And so then it's the whole, you got to get the medication right, and so that takes a little while. But once it was done, it's like I can feel myself, and I'll just like leave the room because I can feel that trigger coming on, and I'm like, now I know what it is. After once you get diagnosed, you see what and you they get the medication right. You see what the world is like for normal people, and I can feel it coming on, and it's I've gone through exactly the same thing.
I just think.
Oh, sorry.
I just think it's that you're not evolved, right? Because with all the stimulus happening, I would imagine it kind of numbs your fight or flight, right? So people with ADHD, maybe they're just not as evolved as no, I'm just making a joke. But for me, it's kind of the exact opposite. Like if something happens, something that like maybe there's an accident and someone's screaming, or like you hear the dogs going blah, 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 like this. My wife jumps up and is out of bed and down the hall, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, nothing kicks in for me. It takes me like a good 10 or 15 seconds before I go like, oh, maybe I should get up and go and help. Or you know what I mean? Something falls and breaks. I'm like, bam. Oh, there's poisonous gas right there, whereas other people are like, and then they run and get out. So I feel like, I don't know if that's less evolved or more evolved.
but let me give you some examples, and suddenly many things get their place, like that give you dopamine. That's how I should say it, because everyone has just as much dopamine. It's just the release that's kind of a problem. But if you do fun stuff, then you get a bigger release of dopamine. And for instance, if you one of the things that people don't know gives you a high dose of dopamine is smoking and eating. And if you just think about it, many people who suddenly stop smoking, what do?
Start eating.
Exactly. Or do you remember when you were so deep into your game you forgot to eat?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all the same thing. It's every time again the dopamine, and so it's the same for gaming. So yes, gaming can be addicting, but it's more about how vulnerable are you at that moment. So what did you pick at that moment to have less those stimuli coming your way? So blaming the problems on gaming, no, that person already had a problem. He just took gaming to get release of all the stress on him. But for the same, he could have just have been gambling or drinking alcohol, been eating a lot, or start smoking. So it's blaming it on the addiction or on the thing that they're addicted on isn't the right way to go about it.
It's the chemical imbalance itself.
It's a chemical balance, but also if you're having a stressful period, then at that moment, people with ADD and ADHD are more vulnerable to it. Because as soon as you're in a more mellow state of a period of time, if you have a good period of time with the family or other things, there's the chance of you being addicted to something are extremely slim. Just think of people that are addicted to something, and just think of them are they really most of those people aren't really balanced in a mental way. Hardly that you will find an addicted person that you thought they are mentally strong.
Interesting. So here's a question. This is kind of I think sort of about addiction. So when you play with people in game, there's people that are like super helpful and they want to do team stuff, but then on the other spectrum, there's people that are trolly, that like to destroy stuff, that like to cause trouble, that like to just like to make it where, oh, let's go and mess up this, let's DDoS this server and cause all this mayhem. What do you think that's some kind of dopamine thing as well? It's like a way to get energy. Like they're getting something out of doing it. They're getting some kind of pleasure.
Oh, sure. It's like with little kids. It's they want negative attention is still attention. It's still a sense of having control in your life, especially people who are at a bad period in their life, who even people with anorexia or like to cut themselves or like to throw themselves totally full with tattoos. Not saying everyone, but there are ways for people to have a sense of control, or going gambling. Like even though it's a negative thing that you're doing, you're actually influencing your life. It means you have control. Also with people who do with protests, who like to riot, it gives a false sense of control, because it's way faster to feel that sense of control than instead of actually building on something, because the results are farther away.
Right. Well, we had Anomalous Arcane say hi. Sorry, we didn't say hi right away. I typed it. And then Spillmaker says, diagnoses. I'm not sure how to, diagnosis?
Diagnose
aren't made to blame stuff. They're made to make problems visible and open the formal gateway to treatment. It's probably just made to categorize what things are. Right. I agree with that. I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting how, everyone gets that dopamine fix a different way, but then we've also spun out names for it. We have game addicts and drug addicts and alcohol addicts and sex addicts and, all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like Heiny said, it boils back down to, that dopamine fix.
Yeah, but look behind the addiction. So it's partly related to the whole dopamine, but at the same time, it's also that person has a problem in which the ADD strengthens that problem. So if the person doesn't have any problem, then there's a highly chance that person won't be addicted to anything.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So it's an accelerator, but it can also help with positive accelerations. Like many ADHD people are very creative. There are a higher number of people being creative on that side, and more organized and stuff on the autistic side. So like the programmers and stuff.
Right.
So it's a spectrum, and depending on your state of mind at that moment, it can grow more. It can get out of balance, more out of balance.
Right. That makes sense.
There was an absolute, remarkable difference in my production and the growth of my company once I got the correct medication to balance my ADHD out. It was absolutely night and day.
For me, when I started using the medicine, and they got me on the methylphenidate. I don't know how to say it in English, but it's what's in Concerta and in Ritalin. It's the stuff that works.
Yeah.
But what I noticed, because when I was in my early 20s, I've been experimenting with everything, and I noticed a very strong correlation with, Mr. Breaking Bad.
So that stuff wires you out?
No, it's more like that. Even also crystal meth helps get that dopamine going. And I was like, since I recognized it, I was like, okay, I want to quit this stuff as soon as possible. And I was looking, and I've been looking for natural ways to compensate. Like early in the morning, I'll just start gaming or just start watching an anime or something that I'm enjoying. Or pick another poison, but not that stuff, because that's I think that stuff is more dangerous.
Well, yeah, and you got to be very careful about how you fix or how you feed that impulse that you've got. I mean, because with the food and the smoking, I had a hell of a time quitting smoking, and then when I did, I gained weight because I was eating. So. But Anomalous Arcane says,
do you feel how it works into each other, as I just explained?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, without a doubt. That's what I said. You're preaching to the choir, talking to me about this.
So Anomalous Arcane has a question. So as a dev, how can we use these dopamine releases to create an engaging game? Just have straight syringes right in the controller, straight to the palm. Oh,
because everybody...
no. They definitely can, because the guys from Candy Crush made this into an art.
Well,
they got you from one dopamine shot into another in just a matter of minutes. That's how it rolls, and that's why it's so addicting, especially to people who are vulnerable to be addicted.
But you've got different types of... There's different types of games and different types of triggers for different types of people. But I mean, yes. All right. So, Candy Crush has done it. World of Warcraft has done it. The achievement systems, in and of themselves, and the way a lot of RPGs and games reward you every few minutes, they do know the science. So, I will take that back. Yeah. I mean, obviously we can do it. I was thinking for more of, with different people having different triggers and different things that spur it, it will be difficult. But no, now that I think about it, there's plenty of companies that have mastered it along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Mastered World of Warcraft.
But it's the same with they also did it with I haven't heard people talking about it, but if you just think about it, they also did amazingly with Deadpool, with just a certain timing of the jokes again and again and again, without feeling that they were breaking the jokes. They just were picking the right moment, and again and again and again. It was a real nice flow. Many stand-up comedians also know how to get into that flow.
It's that timing.
Yeah.
Did you see that tweet on it was talking about a pizza having perfect comedic timing, and it was somebody opening up their oven, the pizza sliding out, falling down, and just kind of flopping over, and then lighting on fire. But it was just like zip, bam, and then it goes on fire. And it was totally the perfect thing about comedic timing.
Yeah, but it's the same with I made a few trailers, experiment a little bit with After Effects for making game trailers for a few games I worked on. And somebody already told me, hey, you have to have a certain rhythm in changing the scenes from one to another, and it really works build up to a certain end. And as you know, from hey, here's the highlight. The highlight is around here, and then you go down slowly, or it's there's always a certain flow timing for things, and people react to that. The body reacts to that. It's like why we like music so much.
And the drop, when you wait for it. A boom, 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 a boom. Because exactly, that's it. So Anomalous Arcane says, I feel like contrasting various elements, tropes within a game may do something of the sort. Combined with emotion, this could trigger multiple types of people. And Spillmaker says, I think a more proper question would be, how can we as devs limit the dopamine exploitation to prevent ourselves from being regulated the same way gambling is? That's a deep question.
That is a deep question.
I don't think you can limit dopamine exploitation. I mean, because that's like the goal that,
it's kind of what you want to go for.
Yeah, that's kind of
it is. But I mean, there's also the ethics side of it. And I'll be blunt. One of the things in marketing games that really bothers me is when I see the ad pop up. It's like, this is the most addictive game on iOS. And I'm like, that to me is exploitive. If you have a really good game, then say it. But it drives me nuts when people, claim that this game is the most addicting. I don't. It's
great. That sounds like what I want to get in on.
Yeah, I mean,
I think I have an answer for that if you want.
Okay.
It's like this addicting version. Think of soap operas, soap series. So every time at the end of the soap of that day, you have this cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So that's the evil version.
Used for years.
That's the evil version. You want more. It stops at a certain point. You want more. But a series like the old, I'm now watching Voyager. Every episode has kind of a real ending. So you want more, closure. But at least you have a certain ending, so you can be a little bit. You have a certain amount of being satisfied. I think that would be the answer of a more ethical version. Right. So you have this person for a few minutes on, or for 10 minutes on, or 30 minutes on, but people can step out and without really feeling, I want to have this extra thing more.
It's all now. Dang it! Like the series Heroes did that. So Pines, does using addicting in marketing language actually sell more games?
I don't have the data, but obviously it does, or they wouldn't do it. Because when you're talking about these bigger the bigger mobile companies that drop millions a week into user acquisition marketing, they have it down to a science as to what's working and what's not working. They A/B test every single thing they do, be it the text in an ad, the picture in an ad, anything,
how text is formatted, anything. Yeah. A picture facing this way or a picture facing this way, what works better?
The whole UI thingy, the user experience, the click-through.
Anything that you see consistently is working. It may not be working on you, but it's working.
True.
Yeah.
And and I think we as parents should be more aware of this to teach it for our children. I think that's especially the most important thing. I don't mind things that much that there's a certain chance of things being addicting. It just means it's fun. We just have to avoid companies that exploit it.
But honestly, I mean, every good book ever written does that exact thing. You ever read a book and be like, "Man, that was such a good book. I wish it wasn't over." Books do the same thing.
But it's over. It's over.
Well, not necessarily. Not if it's a series. Like the Harry Potter books were amazing. They made me feel like a kid again. They gave me something. I kept having to read the next one and read the next one.
Book.
I didn't have to wait for them because I didn't start reading them until later, so I could just pull up the next one and bam.
But do you do get that there's a certain ending to each book aside from part 7? There's a certain
right.
end of the year.
No, there's closure. There's closure, but it's like I want to see what happens next.
Sure, but that's why I'm trying to say that's the ethical version.
Right,
Hers was more about, the book itself is good, and therefore I want to see more of it other than oh, wait a second, is Harry going to live or die, right now? Now you got to wait, another 2 years to find out.
So basically what you're saying, though, is that all the Marvel movies are unethical because they have that whole credit thing that you have to sit through, and then at the end there's like a minute clip that is like, dang it, I want to see that, Those unethical bastards.
There's nothing wrong with that, but because you still have some sort of closure to the story of that part, aside from, of course, now the Infinity Wars. There's still a certain story. You have a certain bad guy. The bad guy gets smashed, and you have the ending, and then you have a teaser from this is coming next. That's way better than that you're not really ending. That the story stops, like with the Hobbit. That at the Hobbit at the end the dragon flew out in part 2. And then you want to know what's the dragon going to do? So you have to wait a whole year because this was really important to the story. So you were not fully satisfied. This wasn't a tease.
Oh,
this was
bastards!
In theory, though, you just have to go pick up the freaking book and see what Smog does. I mean, it's different when they're going from some sort of source material, but I don't think having a teaser or a cliffhanger at the end is and I don't have a problem. I mean, there is that is the downside of our not to say the downside, but the two sides of the coin for our industry. Addicting games or engaging games are the ones that make all the money. And so, the ones that you keep coming back to over and over and over, there is a level of, engagement and addiction there. It's a matter of how they do it. If you're constantly preying on people, that's one thing, but it's hard to prove. It's like, how do you know, when a game is absolutely taking advantage of you and versus it just being something that you enjoy playing.
And that's kind of what I'm trying to say is that if there's a certain ending and you don't have a certain ending with Candy Crush,
it just goes on and on and on and on and on.
And just make new levels and new levels. There's no end goal. And that's kind of the difference. Like with those books, they have a certain end goal, but they do tease you to try the next one with an end goal, teasing you to the next one with a certain end goal. And there's no end goal with Candy Crush.
So the point that I think we cross over into ethics issues, and I had to find the article, but there was an article several months ago about the technology Activision had, or they were working on it, where they would intentionally pair you in games with somebody who had more DLC or microtransaction gear, so you would see it, and then you would want to buy it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta find that. I don't know where that article is, though.
You mean that makes good sense? Makes good sense.
I'll work on it while we keep going here. But that to me is a little fishy. That at that point, I think you could be considered, that you're preying on people. But we're already seeing gambling crossing over into gaming with the whole, loot box situation.
Yeah.
And in Europe, it's different. I mean, so in Europe and actually in like New Jersey and a couple of other states, you can do real money gambling in games, play poker on, for real money, that sort of stuff. So, so where do we, can we even draw a line right there? I'm not in the camp that says loot boxes are a great evil thing. I think they can be done stupidly like EA did, but I don't, look at them as a great evil thing. I mean, we've been buying baseball cards since the 40s, the 30s. It's the same premise. You may not be getting what you want out of it, but you are getting something.
Right.
I agree. It's the same like with Magic cards.
Yeah, the original pay-to-win game.
Yep. Spillmaker. Unlock Chapter 2 for $19.99 or pre-order the next book and get the season pass and exclusive bookmark for only $299.99.
Okay. Can I tell you guys the worst thing that happened to me concerning that? And this was really bad by Capcom, and I still hate them for it. But have you guys been playing Wrath of Azura? Azura's Wrath, sorry.
I haven't played that one.
Well, it's one big QuickTime action QuickTime event as a game, and the animation is really great by the guys who also did the Naruto games. Oh. So the cinematics are really great, but here it comes. So when you're at, I believe, chapter 18 or 16, 18, then when you, I got everything, and then the game said, if you now want a true ending, then you have to do all the levels again on a certain AAA or something like that. But I already had that, so I only had to replay the last 40 minutes to get the real ending. So I played it again, and then I got the true ending. So everything was indeed a little bit different. But then suddenly one of the characters got moved away, and then they said, now you have to pay the DLC to play the last 6 chapters.
That's messed up.
But how is that different than, an ongoing story?
Yeah, that's evil. That's like you're getting me on a cliffhanger. That's really so you have to pay for seeing the ending of the real game, because there wasn't a real ending. It's like going to the movie, and at 3/4 of the movie it said, like, we're stopping now, pay us for the last quarter of a movie.
That would be dumb.
Unless movies had DLC. Movies had DLC.
And the worst was that the DLC was more expensive than the game itself. because I got it for a bargain price.
But
I was like, no.
The movie
But
It,
that's been
what
around
happened.
for years too.
The movie It, that's what happened. You had to go and you saw the first part, and they're like, "Oh, then there's another part, but you got to pay for it again." So
yeah, but with It, I at least had it. It was like both movies belong together, of course, but the kids' story was a separate story to me.
right.
It was a satisfying part. I didn't like the adult versions with the old It, but I also liked the kids version there.
Wait, there were 2 versions of the It movie?
Yeah, there's the old one and then the new one.
Oh, you're talking about the one from like the 80s?
Yeah. Hiya, Georgie. Beep, Richie.
I thought you were talking about on this new version that came out, and I was like, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the new version has 2 also. The old one had 2 movies as well. There's like the original one, or the first one where they had kids, and then the second part was like Jack Ritter was the guy. Was the guy that stuttered.
Did not know this.
You didn't see that?
I remember reading the book like when I was in high school or middle school, but I read it and it's like, okay, I was done with it. I haven't gone back and read it again. But no, and I haven't seen the movies either. But I didn't realize that there was
Georgie.
A nice detail concerning the clown in the first one. That's the same guy as from Home Alone 2, the guy behind in the hotel.
Yeah, he's also the guy in Rocky Horror Picture Show. 'Cause I'm a sweet transvestite. Have you ever seen Rocky Horror Picture Show? Yeah, Tim Curry. He was also in. He's been in a lot of movies. He was on Roseanne as well. Tim Curry's awesome.
Who was he on Roseanne?
He was like the gay. I don't remember who he was exactly. Was he a gay character? But he was funny. You just Google it, you'll see. Tim Curry's been in. He was also the devil in Legend. You know the movie Legend, the guy with the big horns?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was that guy too.
So, 5-10 years ago, we didn't have data analysts in games like we do now.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to see, or are they already employed, psychologists?
Absolutely.
In some of these big games.
It's like with psychology being used in marketing, and the knowledge in the marketing is being used in the games again. There's always, especially a lot of evolutionary psychology is involved with all of these things. So using our own instincts against us, just like Anita Sarkeesian's The Male Gaze. Even though I don't like her in many things, but that doesn't mean everything she says is total bullshit. But it's nature, and only she's trying to make it seem as if it's culture. No, it's nature.
It's going to be interesting to see, because I think you could do it right now. I mean, going back to what they said in chat, can we recreate it? Yeah, you can, even without the psychologist, if you go through and you actually study, and it would probably make a hell of a master's thesis or something along those lines.
Famous story about evolutionary psychology, about what makes cute cool, especially the cool part.
Yeah,
it's you're leaning on evolution, on our dopamine, on our serotonin levels, and things like that. And people, it makes people feel good. So,
but when you're creating a game, assuming you don't have access to research and you can't afford to put a psychologist on your staff and everything like that, if you go through and pay careful attention to the pacing in games like World of Warcraft and Candy Crush, because it's, again, it's like using the word addicting in marketing. Everything in those games is in there for a very specific reason. So if you take the pacing that you see level by level in Candy Crush, or the timing and the pacing of getting a level, and how many quests are you going to do to get a level, and all of that sort of stuff in WoW or another online MMO, that's the same type of thing that you can emulate in your game.
Oh, sure. Well, there are a lot of things that we know unconsciously. So a lot of things we're doing good on instinct. That's why many things, many people know how to draw something cute, even though they are not aware what exactly makes it cute.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like how you can throw a ball through a hoop without knowing the exact mathematics and the gravity and stuff like that.
It's muscle memory.
Yeah, exactly. So, and there are a lot of other things that we do based on how people react to a joke or things like that. We have a memory of those things, but it's also if people behave oddly, we see it, we recognize it because we thought other people do like that. As a kid, we are often not familiar with those things, but the older you get, the more easily you recognize someone who's acting suspiciously.
Yeah. So for, those out there, let's look at it from the parent side and, noticing these things in your child and preventing your child from, we know a lot of devices now and, even games have timers that you can put on them. I know the Switch does, the Xbox does, a lot of these different things. Aside from that, which most parents don't do, what else should they be looking for, and what else can they do to redirect, this dopamine fix that their kids have?
Well, they have to start with awareness. It's like my kid, now he's 10 years old, but when he, between his 6 and his 8, he had a really hard time to quit playing when I said you have to quit playing. But making him aware of certain things, even these things, even though I explain it to him on a very low level, but it does help. So why am I not allowed to play any games anymore? Why am I not allowed to this or that? Yeah, it's because you will then not do your other chores. You will not do your homework. So if you first do the things you have to do, or you can prove that you can stop when I want you to stop, then I can let you do these things more. So learning him about self-control. And also sometimes just saying no, like, hey, Dad, I want a skin. No.
Yeah, that's my reaction.
I'm not letting him pay for any aesthetics that do not influence the gameplay.
Yeah, we had to have that discussion. It's like, okay, do you want that $20 skin, or do you want like a whole new game? Oh, I want a whole new game. Yeah, see? That's how it works.
Exactly.
So what else do we want to hit? What else, along these lines? I know that it was in the news a lot recently, and they're looking at it as a psychological disorder, which aside from affecting, whether or not the insurance company in the U.S. is going to pay for the medication or not, I don't really know, what that is going to do.
It's just another excuse to dope people up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dope them up. Get that dope.
I saw this chart of the US, and you saw in the middle of the country less use of Adderall and things like that, and as soon as you come with more populated, more dense areas, then it really skyrockets per 1,000 people that live there, because the more people are around you, the more you are getting triggered, the more anxiety you will get. So these drugs help you get less anxious.
Because the level, I can see that, because the level of stress and the number of, what's the word I'm looking for, things that provoke you, it's definitely going to, there's definitely go up in, in bigger cities. There's more stuff going on around you. I've noticed myself when we moved, up, to the mountains where, quite frankly, the pace of life is a lot slower up here. It's been, it's lowered my stress levels considerably. Mm-hmm. And not going to any conferences this year, has lowered it as well.
Hey, but also one thing that I noticed is that we went to Japan, and Doki was with us, and Doki isn't the tallest person. I think India's seen him. Doki is a small fella, but he was when he went to New York, he totally got crazy among the crowd, how everything was crowded, and when crossing roads. But he didn't have that when he was in Japan. And you know what it is?
Is it the height?
No, it's simply that no one will get it in their mind to try and steal your wallet. It's crimes like that are almost non-existent. So you are more relaxed even when you're walking around many people. While if you're in Berlin or Amsterdam or in New York or in London, you will be more aware of your surroundings to know if you're safe. And the more people are around you, the more you have to watch out.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So this is all like, aspects of the industry that nobody ever talks about, and can you use this for good or for evil, either way. It's interesting.
With bringing up your kids, it can help you a lot. Because if it makes you aware of what they're going through and why they're going through it, and you can explain it to them to a certain level. It's like when I'm sometimes my ADD kicks up and I'm angry and I'm like, oh wait, now I'm starting to build up all the negative things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting in this downward spiral, and then I stop myself. Oh, it's my ADD kicking in. I have to slow down, take a few steps back because I'm exaggerating things in my head and. Probably not meant that bad what she or he told me.
Yeah, that's like being aware of what's going on. You know when to stop it before it actually happens. You can feel like when the onset of it.
You have to be able to have seen it from both sides of the equation. So like in my case and in Heiny's case, the way that we operated for like the first 30, 35 years of our life is one side, and then the way that we operate now after getting treatment, now we can see the difference. And it's like, I catch myself the same way. It's like, I'm getting really angry about this and I shouldn't be angry about this. Oh, I'm overstimulated. And, and I'll just, because I know exactly. I mean, we have a lot of kids over the house and, TVs are going and people are talking and I'm just, I just have to leave. I'm like, if I don't get out of here, I'm going to snap. But you don't realize that until you've seen the other side of it where you're not like that, basically.
But you're also familiar, I think, with, I bet you have, perhaps even now, you often have, or at least in your history, that the TV was on and you weren't watching, but somehow it gives you a sort of buzz, making it more relaxed in your head, that your mom came in or your wife came in. Why is the TV on again? Well, you weren't even watching, but it gives a sort of, it takes away a lot of the other triggers. So
exactly.
Right.
That's like
just having the sound going on.
You have to have, and I do it during the day. I'll have radio going, or it's usually better if it's a music going versus listening to a stream, because if I'm listening to somebody's stream, I have that pull to get engaged with it, and that's not gonna, that's not going to help because it's going to take me away from what I'm doing,
Exactly, because this I can explain to you. It's like when you're communicating, so when you're streaming or when you're reading something that you have to read, or you're writing an email, as soon as you're busy with your communication part, you're not able to listen to someone else. So that's a problem. But what you can do is, like, because I had a very big problem, like even stupid things like the normal chores in the house, cleaning up, or getting the groceries, or getting out on the bike, or painting something. But as soon as I put up listening to an audiobook, because I was doing something that didn't require me to communicate, then I wasn't exaggerating the problem of having to do things that I don't like. So suddenly things that I don't like became way easier to do for me.
And that was one of the first questions I asked, when they said, you have ADHD. And I was like, well, then why can't I sit down and play a game for like 6 hours? And she goes, you enjoy doing that.
It's hyper focus.
Oh, now it makes more sense. And it's really been a different world. Part of me goes, I wonder what I could have done in my life, in my career, if I had been on this medication since I was like, I don't know, 20. I probably would have done a hell of a lot better in college, but it's
you would have been better at the things you don't like to do.
Well, yeah, but now I'm old, and so the things I don't like to do, I just don't do.
Yeah, but it means that you did filter out what you really like to do in your life, and by more focusing on the things you like, you have become better at the things you like than you would have otherwise have become. So it's all a matter of pluses and minuses. It's just being aware. It's like with my son. He obviously also has ADD, but we didn't get him diagnosed, so he also doesn't get any medication, because I'm now trying to help him by what I learned about the stuff. So I let him game when I think, hey, this is a good moment to get the dopamine shot, and I finally got a hold of him. I know how to get him stimulated to learn something. So it's always the key is motivation. So I have to find out why should I learn him English, or I have to learn him why is this interesting? Why is biology interesting? Why is mathematics interesting? And now I look for something that's related to that he finds interesting, and then he has something to build from. And now his scores have gone up like crazy. His lowest score was like 70 out of 100. On this whole report card. So he's been doing great.
See, and that's also, I mean, we're carefully monitoring ours, because our son is 6, to see if he's going to have those same tendencies that I did. But I'm with you. I don't want him medicated from the time that he's like 8 all the way through, his adult life on this stuff. It is, you and I and people that have gone through this can sit down and look at it and, start identifying signals, and we know how to, reroute some of that stuff versus, parents that don't, or parents that don't frankly pay attention, or, things along those lines.
Yeah, true. It's but basically now he's one of the highest scoring kids in his class. It's just learning, making him learn the benefits and the downsides of ADD, because people are approaching this too much as if it's mental disorder. It's not a disorder. It's not a disorder at all. Like I said, it's something that came by evolution, that gave us a benefit in the past, and now it's kind of a problem if we want to do things all in the same way, because you cannot teach these kids in the same way as 60% of the other kids.
Yeah.
And there are quite a lot of kids who have this, but they just have to be approached in a different way, because they can certainly learn all the same things as the others could. We just have to go more about, hey, how can we motivate this kid? And you have a high chance of getting a better scoring kid than the others. And that's also why people with ADD have a bigger tendency to walk on the line of crazy to genius, that line. So one moment it can be
highly functioning sociopath, just like Sherlock. Mm-hmm.
Well, but he's more on the autistic side. But we're more like the crazy the Jim Carrey people who can be genius stand-up comedy guys who can suddenly come up with the most crazy ideas and funny things, but they also can suddenly go crazy, like Tom Cruise jumping on a chair and going all Scientology on people.
Yes, that's the different level, but it's not. I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. It's not a disadvantage. I mean, look at the company that I've had now for 8 years, and I can tell you it's not a disadvantage. You learn how to route it, You learn how to deal with it, and it can easily become an advantage. If you go that route with it. So how do we want to wrap this back and bring this back into
addiction,
gaming, and how we can make better games, with this sort of knowledge in the back of our heads?
Well, let us first just assume, keep on with the assumption that games need to be fun, they need to be engaging, they need to be challenging. And because the addiction side also tells us what we like about games, and we have to keep it in there. We just have to make sure that we dose it in a ethical way. I think that's all there is to it.
And we also have to realize that there are always going to be companies who do not deal with it in an ethical way. And, that's the ones that you may not necessarily have to completely avoid, but you do have to be aware of it, especially as a parent.
But what is the first rule of an addiction? What's to get out of an addiction? What's the first thing?
Acknowledging it.
Exactly. So that's the first part. And addiction can be most easily defined by: are you now doing something that you shouldn't?
Yeah. Or are you disregarding things that you should be,
exactly,
paying attention to because of something else?
If you can game 16 hours per day and nothing is damaged in your life because of it, then there's no problem. But if you're gaming 2 hours a day while you don't have those 2 hours, then you have an addiction.
Well, and it's the same with gambling. If you have money to burn, or you set aside healthy amounts of, a healthy amount out of your budget that doesn't, impair anything else or anyone else, it's fine.
That's some true NA and AA stuff right there. You only have a problem if it causes a problem in your life. If you can do it and it's fine, then you don't have a problem.
I have this eagerness to breathe. So yeah, sorry, I tried stopping, but after 30 minutes, I get these 30 seconds. I already get these signals that I really need to. I need my next shot.
You're addicted to oxygen.
Yeah, exactly.
So. Yeah, but basically, there are a lot of problems that we make bigger because it's more sensational. It's gaming. Gaming is evil. It's somehow society always wants to blame something, and they tend to not take responsibility themselves. A lot of parents blame their kids' behavior on gaming or alcohol or whatever. But it's their lack of taking responsibility and teaching the kids how to behave, how to, with everything. That's non-PC. That's non-PC right now.
Dim said, bad news for you, Heiny. 100% of the people who died actually used oxygen.
Yep. They blew up.
At some point, that's exactly what happened.
100% of the people? 100% of the people that were alive died. Or will.
And those people used oxygen.
Yeah.
You do know that Hitler used oxygen, no, right?
Well,
so you using oxygen.
Well,
do we have questions out there from anyone on how you can use this knowledge for good or for evil? Just stop using addicting in marketing. That's I'll be happy if we can get that done. I don't see anything. Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Okay, Jerry Springer. Is that what it is? Jerry Springer's final thoughts?
I forgot about that. Don't be comparing it. No, I don't want to go that route. That's not what I'm after here. We've still got our giveaway going on.
Yes.
It's going to run for the next week or so. Next 2 weeks, actually. and we're giving away one of our PC publisher guides that's got a walkthrough on how to find a good publisher, what you need to do, questions you need to ask, the process in and of itself, and then it's got 250 plus publishers, in the industry that are publishing PC games or HTML, web, anything that's played on a PC. They're all in there. And when you pick it up, you're going to find it's got their LinkedIn page, it's got their Steam Spy page if they've launched Steam games, web page, the information that you need in order to, sit down and make a decision. And I had an email this morning from someone, and they're like, we got a game, but we know it's not going to appeal to 250 publishers. Can you run us a custom report on, just our game? And the short answer is yes. And I would be happy to do that. But quite frankly, it's going to cost you more than the actual, guide that we've got, because then we've got to go back through it and, double check everything and do research to make sure that they're actually still publishing those things. You're much better off just getting the guide and going through and looking and doing the research. We're giving you the tools to get out there. If you want to pay us to do it, we will do it in a heartbeat. But, your cheapest objective is to, pick up the guide and go from there. But we'll be giving that away in about 2 weeks, I think.
Is that the date?
It's on the...
Let me type in giveaway.
Goes through August 9th.
Soon. There it is, right there. There's the giveaway.
And we're working
14 days left. 2 weeks. 2 weeks left.
Oh, in the meantime, we're working on ones for mobile publishers and console publishers too. Check out, you got a link to Heiny's Discord. If you're not in Heiny's Discord, highly recommend it. Lots of, how many people do you have in there now, Heiny?
630 plus.
Nice. Very nice.
It's not bad within 5 months. Yeah, 5 months.
And it's developers, it's publishers, it's streamers, a lot of different roles in the indie game world are in there. So yeah, absolutely check that out. Can you throw a invite link in there, Heiny? I was looking on your server for it, but I don't see one.
Sure. One moment. It's now 636 people. Yay. Plus one bot.
And I'm in there, and Indy's in there. You can find us.
Yeah. Somewhere.
Ooh, I'm not the only consultant anymore. Wow. So, but yeah.
These days, anyone can call themselves a consultant, right?
A consort.
You
don't have a job, right? Well, yeah, sort of.
Here's the link. Don't know if can you copy paste it?
Yep. Oh, would it not let you do it in the?
I don't have the stream open, so I can't read anything.
Oh, gotcha. All right, there's a link to Heiny's Discord. And then I'm good. If y'all are good, then I'm going to wrap up my day and take my son fishing and canoeing.
I hope people found it interesting. It wasn't as I thought you mentioned yesterday, or this might be too heated or something like that.
Well, I didn't realize that we both had very similar backgrounds in that way, way, shape, and form. And it's like, I'm not going to really argue if I agree with you, so.
Or you don't have to argue to discuss a certain point. I think we've proven it now.
Very true. I'm just seeing. So yeah, you were discussing how hot it is over there for you all right now. It is 27 Celsius here, and this is about as hot as it ever gets all year long.
Okay, here it is. It's now 26.5 degrees inside, and it's now 30 past 10 in the evening.
Whew.
Jeez.
10:30.
You got to move to a higher elevation, Heiny. That's how I dealt with it.
We don't expect it to go much lower, just 2 degrees in the middle of the night, but it's all kinds of records were broken in the Netherlands. Netherlands aren't known for these temperatures.
So that's crazy. What is it down in Brazil right now, Dev?
Who's in Brazil?
Dividorium in Brazil. Oh, they're like me. It's like 22 down there now.
Wow.
But you probably got like 100% humidity. That was the other thing that we got away from when we moved up here. There's no more humidity. Well, there is, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be.
Yeah, we got 63% humidity at this moment.
That's what I had to get away from. The super hot temperatures in the south, paired with the ridiculous humidity is a recipe for disaster. All right. I'm good. I'm going to go fishing.
All right. Go fishing. Heiny? Thanks, Heiny.
Have fun fishing.
Thank you, Heiny.
Bye, everybody.
Always love having you on.
Yeah, that was awesome.
You're
Thank
welcome.
You. Bye.
Fun to be here.
We'll see y'all.